Hello students, welcome to this video lecture series. The subject which is assigned to you, sorry, that is business communication. It has same pattern, that is 60 plus 40. Again, in this syllabus, we are going to study the details, the information which is widely mentioned in this subject. After studying this subject, you will be versatile, you will be enough qualified or eligible to follow the business communication in your day-to-day life as well as your professional career. So let us see the information which is added in the first lecture, that is regarding the introductory part. So the objective of this course is to help you enhance your sensitivity to your environment and develop your own unique style of becoming effective in international corporate interaction. So it has 40 sections and one lecture cover one session. Okay, so the reference books are already provided here. See O'Rourke, 4th JS, and Singh A management communication, Angel P, Martin JM, Samovar, Stuart J. These are the writers who has composed different books which are very beneficial to compose this syllabus. So actually the first point, that is what is communication. What is communication? Let us move to our actual point. What is communication? So in first year, second year, or somehow you have read, you are well introduced the definition of communication. Okay, so the first thing we will talk about is communication. What is communication? According to Dr. Frank, communication is acting upon an information. It is as simple as that. We communicate to act upon information. We act on a stimulus that is coming at us from our environment. We receive this stimulus. We make sense of it. Let me clear what is stimulus. Stimulus is any object which is present in the environment, which is present in front of us, which is present in front of our eyes. After observing that object, we respond, we think over it and we respond to that object. That object is called here stimulus. For example, if you see the red color, you will get different ideas regarding it is related to danger. We should stop here. This kind of information or thought process goes on because of this red color, and that red color or red object denotes the danger. That object is called a stimulus. So we make sense of it, and then depending on our understanding of a stimulus and our understanding of what is required, we respond to the stimulus. So that is what we mean when we say that communication is acting upon information. Okay, so this is the next slide. The question is raised here, why do we communicate? Means we are doing communication, we are again and again doing communication in the form of verbal communication and in non-verbal communication. But why we communicate with each other? What are the purposes? What are the reasons behind it? So its explanation is given by different writers, that is Mead, Maslow, Dance and Larson and Barbara Wood. What they have mentioned, see here, various theories. For example, various theories, behavioral theories, scientists have tried to give response to this. We communicate according to Mead. We communicate to respond, means we communicate according to Mead, the definition or information which is proclaimed by Mead, writer Mead. He says that we communicate to respond to the stimulus. Is as simple as that. We get something from the environment and we are forced to respond to it. Any stimulus elicit a response. According to Abraham Maslow, there is a behavioral motivation of needs, which means we communicate to fulfill our need. For example, we are very much hungry, then we must communicate with someone. Means we demand vegetables, fruits, or in short we demand meal to fulfill our need of hunger. Okay, so need proclaims us or compels us to communicate. So now all of these theories has been subjected to critics. There are people who have come forth and given us more information about these theories, but from whatever was available to these theories, They came out with these interpretations of why we communicate. Dance and Larson in 1972 says that we communicate to link ourselves with our environment, which means we communicate in order to connect with every single or with the different elements in our environment. They also say that sorry, we communicate to develop our higher mental processes. And the third reason why we communicate is to recognize our behavior. Again, the next writer Barbara Woods, who is a child psychologist, says with special reference to children. She says we communicate to make sense of our words. Now, this is something we see in our day-to-day lives. When we say children, you think of a little baby, think of a little child who is trying to make sense of his words. So how does the communication start? In the first place, a little baby is born, and then a baby left out to cry, and first time the baby cries, the first time the baby feels need, the baby lets you cry, and depending on the response the baby gets, the second cry is different. So the first time the baby cries, the mother tries to feed the baby, and after being fed the baby still cries. The mother tries to think what is going on, and then she checks the baby's diaper so to see if the baby is wet. And then if the baby is wet, she changes the diaper and the baby stops crying. So the baby realizes that if I send out one kind of cry, this is the kind of response. Means suppose the baby cries first time, it sends some kind of response. Then he or she thinks that baby thinks that I will get the next time I want my diaper change, I will have to modify the way I cry to some extent. Okay, so that's how babies learn to make sense of the words. That's how mothers try to understand the language of the babies. That's how all of us respond to new situations. We can extrapolate the baby's experience to our experience in our daily lives. Any new situation we have, we communicate like that. We find out searching a new situation to send out a mild signal. We try and find out what the environment is all about by sending out these signals, and we form an impression about our environment by the kinds of feedback we receive from our environment. So, when we send out a signal, it expresses a response, and once we get that response, we realize how comfortable or uncomfortable we are with that response, and based on that sense of comfort or discomfort, we decide whether we want to communicate in a particular fashion or not. We also form an impression about how comfortable the environment is. Okay, so we also form an impression about what our environment is like based on the kinds of signals we receive. So all these definitions fit the reasons, or they explain why we communicate. In short, there are some situations, conditions, incidents are happening in the environment, and we respond to those condition situations, and there are needs, or we are also having needs, and to fulfill that needs we communicate. So going back to the Dance and Larson definition, Dance and Larson say that we communicate to link our sense with environment. Now many times you may have noticed that when you send a signal into the environment, sometimes people respond, sometimes people wouldn't respond, but many times people respond in certain ways, and you form the idea about the kinds of connections you're making with your environments. So we link ourselves. Sometimes people do not want to respond to our signals, but whenever they respond to our signals positively, some sort of connection is formed, and then based on that connection we start a future interaction with them, maybe immediately, maybe after a while. They also say we develop higher mental processes. We communicate to develop higher mental processes, which means that whenever we send signals into the environment, we get some feedback. Now that feedback we get from our environment stimulates something in our mind, and that stimulation leads to clarification. It leads to our ability to explore further, and that's the way we, that's very crudely explaining how we develop our further mental processes. It also leads to regulation of behavior, which is what I was talking about regarding positive and negative experiences. If we need a signal into our environment and we get a response that is comfortable for us, then we send out stronger signals along the same lines of the same nature. But if we get a response that is not as comfortable, then we slowly taper down to minimum communication and of that kind of stimulus into the environment. And if the response that we get is very unfavorable, we just stop sending it, so it regulates our behavior. So that's why we communicate, and in order to regulate other people's behavior, we send out signals and let them know how comfortable we are with their signals. So that is how we regulate the behavior of the environment around us. We let the environment around us know whether we are comfortable with it or not, whether we are really fitting it with it or not, and we that's why we communicate. Okay, so next is that how does communication happen. So just we observe that why we communicate, why we communicate. We just got the information or reasons or explanation about this, why we communicate. The next question is raised here, that is how does communication happen. How does communication happen? On a very basic level, communication happen by transmitting a message that carries a particular meaning in a particular context, and receiving a message and deriving meaning from it in a particular context, which means that we communicate by sending a message that is loaded, that is encased in a meaning within a particular context, and then the person or the other end receives the message and derives the meaning from it in a particular context. This is how communication happens. It is not just a transfer and reception of signals, it is communication in its entirety. Okay, so meanings are derived and created in shared context. Okay, so how does it happen here? The first time an electronic computer mouse was designed, maybe only the people who designed just called it a mouse, and slowly when it started being accepted and the meaning was explained, the shared context was extended to other people. It was called a mouse by other people who started understanding the same context and sharing the meaning that were created in the same context. The more similar context, going back to the slide, the more similar to the context, the simpler it is to derive the meaning within a shared context. The more similar the context, the simpler it is to derive the same meaning from the same message, or to create a shared meaning within a shared context. This is the basis of modern day intercultural communication competence. Now let us take the example of language we speak. In Bengal we speak Bengali, in Punjab we speak Punjabi, in Gujarat we speak Gujarati. What is so different in the Netherlands? We speak Dutch. In Italy, people speak Italian, people speak different languages. They have the same kind of things, same human beings, same two hands, two arms, two ears, one nose, one mouth, but we have different names. Okay, so the easier it is for us to understand things on the same page. We all have our unique experiences, but we have more similarity with certain people than with others, and this is the basis for modern day intercultural communication competence. Modern day intercultural communication competence rests on the principle that some similar pages have to be created before we can start communicating with people from other cultures. We need to create a similarity between our context. There is one more thing that to share with you. is Berlow's model of communication. So see the Berlow's model of communication in next slide. See here, this is the model of Berlow's regarding SMCR, that is source, message, channel, and R stands for receiver. Okay, so that is the source, message, channel, receiver model. Talks about the involvement of all of these elements in the process of communication. Okay, we know the definition of communication. We share the information from one person to another person. Same thing is happen here, but model is different. Okay, and according to Berlow, the source, that is encased in the source, the kind of message a source design is dependent upon the communication skills of the source. Okay, see here, according to Berlow, the source, that is encased in the source, the kind of message a source design is dependent upon the communication skills of the source, is dependent upon the attitude of the source, is dependent upon the knowledge of the source, the social system of the source, and culture of the source, and based on all of these attributes, the source designs or encodes a message into a language or into words or into non-verbal signals, and this message then has its own content. It has elements that are treated, they have a structure, and the code is designed, which is the language. The structure, the code is designed, that is called here language. This message then sent through a channel, and that channel could be hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, tasting, whatever, and then the receiver decodes the message that has been sent to him, and the reception of the message depends upon the receiver's communication skills, the receiver's attitudes, the receiver's knowledge, and the receiver's social system and receiver's culture. So this is the model is again very essential for international business communication, because the communication skills of the source will be very different from the communication skills of the receiver. The interpretation of the source has of the channel of the content that is being designed is very different from the interpretation the receiver has of the source from the interpretation the receiver has of content from the interpretations the receiver has of the channel, and that will in turn change the message completely. Okay, so that the person receiving any message also perceives it more or less in a similar manner, because we are all unique individuals. Every single person on this earth is a very unique individual, and we just need to find similarity in our context to send our message across, and hope that it goes across as clearly as we want it to, and we will get the job done. Okay, so two questions we have studied. Why do we communicate, and how does it happen? The next question, who communicates? See here, so it is depending upon the level, depending on the number of people involved. There are three levels of communication. There is intrapersonal communication, which is within one's own head with one's own self. In interpersonal communication, which is with someone else, and person to person, which is what I'm trying to do here. One person to group, you may say group to group, but when you really break it down, it is usually one person talking, because if 5 people are talking to 20 other people, nobody will be able to hear what is being said. So it's usually one person standing on one side and talking to somebody else. You may say that about mass communication message. These messages are sent on behalf of an organization to which can be treated as one unit. So it is this unit. It could be person. When we say person, we don't really mean one human being. It could be one unit, any unit. It could be one person. It could be one side of your thought process. It could be one of your opinion you hold as a person. So it applies to intergroup and inter-team communication as well. That's what I'm talking about here. So it is one unit communicating with several other units. So for communication, channel is required. Channels are required. So see here, what are the channels? Those are channels of communication. How do we communicate? We can communicate face to face and face to face, verbally and non-verbally. We will talk about this in future lectures. We can have voice to voice communication, telephone, audio messaging, etc. And we can have written and digital communication. But of course, these are three broad categories. You could find a method of categories. Within these categories, mixing up these categories, you could have face to face, you could have voice to video, voice to face only, you could have a million other combinations. But on the very basic level, these are the channels of communication we use. So there are levels also, levels of interaction or levels of communication. Those are person to person, person to group. Okay. So another matter which is required to discuss, that is physical environment or setting of the communicative experience. Okay. The physical environment of the communicative experience could be homework, social relationships, etc. And these have been taken from Buruk Singh's book. This reference book is used by the writer, the Arundhati Malik, Anuradha Malik, and she has explained these things in her course. This course is online available. It is the NPTEL course. Even you may get the details, PDF notes in this course. So these categories are from there. You can look up more. So the utterance, while communication, we need utterance as a unit of communication. We share the information, and it includes some kind of units in that communication, which includes the utterance. So Bakhtin, this writer, what he says here, according to Bakhtin, in 1993, Bakhtin, the essence of being in the transmission of the emotional volitional aspects of the utterance along with the utterance itself, which means that the Bakhtin, who is a Russian philosopher who gave us these fantastic ideas, great ideas about communication and the person. Okay, so Bakhtin says that everything that is going on in our mind is actually being transmitted. Now if the receiver is able to get it nicely, okay, whatever I'm talking, you are getting the same idea. So it is up to the receiver to interpret whatever he or she can. And you may have heard that many people say that I can find out what you are thinking from the way you have said a particular thing. So that is what this is all about. I can find out what you are feeling. I can find out what you want just from the way you have said a particular thing. I'm not focusing on the word, I'm focusing on the manner in which those words have been presented to me. And that is what Bakhtin's idea about communication talks about, or idea about the utterance talks about. Bakhtin says it is the whole experience of an utterance that gives the utterance its meaning and life and separates it from the unnatural and mechanical. Now message is mechanical. You type a message on the computer and that is about it. But the entire experience of the utterance, the entire combination of your emotion, of your intentions behind that utterance is what gives the utterance its complete meaning. Okay, so this is what the real communication is. This is the difference between the message, transmission of a message, communication, and communication is a lot more. Communication is so much more than just simple transmission of a message. It is the message to the context, the emotions and intentions and everything else. Okay, so it has a history of business communication. Okay, it has a history. It's a very old concept, that is business communication. Means in around 3000 BC, Bacchus advice on how to speak effectively addressed to the Cajimni, eldest son of the pharaoh Funi. So it has another story you may see on the YouTube. Okay, so in business communication, in your professional communication, professional career, you may superior or senior or junior. You may be a manager, or you may do work under the guidance of manager. So what do managers do? There are several functions are given. Okay, so he may motivate you, he may direct you, allocate your work. The manager may follow the work, monitor the work, evaluate work, or your the juniors. He can plan, he can react, he can develop the task. These all are functions done by the managers. So how do managers do what they want to do? Okay, so their processes are given. Okay, they engage in certain processes. So managers use certain processes to carry out these functions. Okay, in earlier slides, this one, in these slides we observe these functions. To carry out these functions, there are processes. These are the processes are carried out to fulfill that functions. So, and the processes managers engages are in structural processes, which is teaching, training, personal, and all of those steps. Okay, personal processes, interpersonal processes, entrepreneurial processes, which means coming up with new ideas, designing and step, political processes, administrative processes, financial processes, and legal processes, when most of the other processes can be put into one or several of these categories. Okay, so what affects what managers to do? What affects? If something is done by the managers, how does it affect? So see here, and effects, what they do is the contingencies. These are the contingencies, means several things may happen or may not happen. There is possibility of something may happen or may not happen. Contingency, that word means unpredictability. Okay, and these contingencies are things that happen all of a sudden. Contingencies are unplanned events, and we make contingencies plan, which is oxymoron. Okay, the contingencies by definition is something that happens without warning. We can plan, we can do our homework, we can plan for our contingencies, but we cannot really anticipate the entire contingencies as a whole. And these contingencies is things that can really change without notice. Could be the mission of the organization, and in the mission it could be the nature of the mission, it could be the unity of the mission, unity of the different parts of machines, and the stability of the mission itself. Another contingencies or unpredictability or possibility could occur in the organization itself, in the size, structure, and culture of the organization. Downsizing, right sizing the organization could happen. The structure could change. The structure could change. Could have more technical people. Could have more back office operation. You could have other steps coming in the culture of the organization. Change could have traditionally organization in India where we were very vertical. So these days they are slowly moving to a horizontal, flatter type of structure where the goals are very clearly defined. It is all about achieving goals and much less about who is answerable to whom. That is still there, but those lines levels have come down. So the culture is changing, or one area of our plant or one plant or one office of the organization could be very vertical, and the other area or other sections of the organization could be very horizontal. So things may change because of stuff going in the environment. We could have mergers, you could have acquisitions, you could have leaving people suddenly because new opportunities has come up. And so these are contingencies that happen. The environment could also be contingencies, which is another contingencies is the environment could have regulatory contingencies possibilities, which mean the rules could change, the laws could change, the policies could change. You could have economic contingencies. So here is the manager's job. See here, so a manager's job now based on the slides. This is that is the intervention that the manager's job is really to function where the processes and functions is to perform really well in an environment where the process of the manager's gains in functions of the manager's job are constantly being affected, constantly being impacted by the contingencies in the management, in the environment, and these in turn have a bearing on the goals on the organization that the managers are the part of. So these all things we have discussed in the first lecture, that is business communication. Okay, it is the introductory part, and next video lectures we are going to study in detail. Meanwhile, you may get down the syllabus from the DBATO University website and study what are the contents are prescribed for this syllabus. So thank you, thanks for listening patiently. So let us stop here. Thank you.